Hello guys, it's me, the Inside Man from Teardown, and today I'm going to tell you a story about 12, and it's going to start with the Infinix Hot 12. Actually, I really wish I could tell you 12 things about the smartphone that you'd like and 12 things that you won't like, since the name is 12 and I'm going with 12. But in the teardown video, time is not always our friend, so I'll have to skip to telling you some good stuff about this phone and areas of improvement and why you should probably get this phone ahead of the Infinix Note 12. From the onset, this phone is really good. It has a 6.8-inch display with 90 Hz refresh rate, and the back plastic is shiny but retains lots of fingerprint, which is why you need a protective case that comes in the box. Thankfully, Infinix included one in the box, so you don't have to spend extra money to get that protective case. Now, the SIM card tray has a red gasket around it, which actually kind of prevent water, but like I said, this phone is not IP rated, so keep out of the reach of water or any liquid or any dust to avoid storage that touch. With that said, with a little heat applied to the back, I can start prying out the back plastic, which is very well sealed. Infinix tried with this one, and I have to say I'm impressed with what Infinix did with this phone. I mean, the Infinix Hot 12, since we're on 12, is the first Infinix phone to boot Android 12 in 2022, which is very commendable. And the back plastic is pretty nice, although it's shiny, but it's still plastic, and which means you don't have to be afraid of it falling down and just shattering, because glass is glass and you know what happens to glass when it falls. There are about 15 screws holding the frame of the phone, and just taking those 15 screws out, I'll be able to take out the phone and access the phone. Now, Infinix have this weird habit of always hiding screws beneath the camera modules, and on this occasion they hid 3 screws at the bottom of this camera module, which makes it very difficult to take out the frame, but is the job, it has to be done. Now, a couple of things I would like to talk about this device is that the 6.8-inch of this device is good, and the fact that it comes with 90 Hz refresh rate is dope, but the screen is LCD panel and it's just 720p, which means it's not full HD plus, it's not 1080p, so which is kind of a bummer for a phone that costs 95,000 naira, but it's still good. I mean, for the price is okay. And there are other things you will love about the phone. For example, the phone comes with a side mounted fingerprint that is pretty fast, and it's really cool. It works pretty well. Thumbs up for that. Then the camera setup is a little bit of misreaction, and we'll get to that in a bit when we get inside the phone. Then there is an interesting thing about the chipset of this phone, which I will uncover very soon. The standard of the component of this phone is just like Infinix set up their phone. The bottom is the bottom board that has the main speaker, the USB Type-C port, and 3.5mm jack. Then the ribbon cable runs from the bottom to the top board, connecting with the top board, communication and sending data and all that. Then there is a vibrator module at the bottom board, and the 4G antenna, the network antenna, runs from the bottom board to the top board. And there is also a secondary speaker at the top board, which makes it 2 speakers. Then you have the camera setup and the battery at the middle. The battery is 5,000 mAh battery, and we'll get to that. There's lots of exciting things to talk about in there. To take out the bottom board, there is a screw holding it. Now, taking out the screw and removing the antenna cable and the ribbon cable that runs from the bottom board to the top board, the bottom board can finally come free. The bottom board is home to the USB Type-C port and 3.5mm jack, as I've mentioned earlier, but there is no sign of any rubber like what we saw with the SIM card tray. Then there is also a water damage indicator, so that is to show you when water comes in contact with the device. So you should actually keep this phone away from any liquid. Any liquid passing through the bottom will just damage the device. So, but if you need a phone that is waterproof, you can look the way of the Galaxy 53 5G. I done the teardown video on this channel. I will link to in the description below. You watch it. Even the main speaker of this phone has no gasket or anything, so it's prone to water and dust. So do your best to make sure this phone does not come in contact with water or dust. Now, taking out the 4G cable, the network cable, and taking out the ribbon cables from the top board, the battery cable and the screen cable, Then there are 3 more screws holding the top main board. Taking those screws out, I can finally lift the top board and show you what's inside. Now on the top board, there's also a water damage indicator, which means you know what it is. Don't get this phone close to water if you don't need to damage. Now removing the top board, I noticed that there is I noticed that there is a camera sensor that is stuck on the frame. I'll get to that in a bit, but for now, this is the main 13 megapixel main camera of the phone, and the 2 megapixel depth sensor, and the QVA, which is an AI camera that is stuck on the board. Let me just quickly take that out so that I'll be able to add it to the main board for us to continue with this video. Now removing that was pretty easy, and clipping it back to the main board, we can get back to knowing more about the device. All right, that's pretty nice. You can see that there are lots of coppers on this covering the chipset, which is pretty good. Now on the front, you have an 8 megapixel camera sensor, which takes pretty decent photos when under good conditions, the cameras, but they are not the best of cameras. You see they lack features such as OIS and can't record 4K videos. The interesting thing about this chipset is that it is well cooled. The chipset inside this phone is the MediaTek Helio G85. That is a gaming chipset for mid-range smartphones, and the fact that Infinix used this number of paste on it means they want the CPU and GPU to not overheat when it's being used under extensive usage, continuous usage. They don't want the chipset to easily overheat, because the more a chipset becomes hot, the less it performs, the less performing power it has. Yeah. Now the battery inside this phone is 5000 milliampere hour battery, which is pretty good. And talking about 12, definitely the battery and the chipset is among the 12 good things you will enjoy about this phone. The chipset is well cooled. Now the battery is big and can last you for a long time. Now talking about 12 things you might not like about this phone, I will include that underneath the battery there is no good cooling system. There is no graphite cooling, there is no copper chamber, which means plugging this phone and using it will make the battery get heated up pretty easily. So there is the tendency that without this proper cooling system for the battery can get swollen up when you are plugging it and it's plugged in and you are using it. So you should be careful with that. So this is the Infinix Hot 12, and like I said, there are 12 things you can like about this phone, and there are 12 things you might not like about this phone, since it's the era of 12. But one thing I'll say for sure is that this phone boots Android 12, which is pretty good. It has good battery, the chipset is well cooled, the camera is average, and the pricing is decent. I won't complain much about this pricing. But on the other hand, the screen is 720p, which is not the best, and the battery is not well cooled, which is another bummer. But overall, I would recommend this Infinix Hot 12 over the Infinix Note 12. The Infinix Note 12 is just like a rebranded Infinix Hot 11, Infinix Note 11, sorry. And I don't really think that offers good value for money. So considering the value of the Infinix Hot 12 that boots Android 12 out of the box, yeah, that is a pretty good deal for me. And it's definitely the best 12 from Infinix you can get. And comparing the software, if Infinix decides to upgrade this Hot 12, it will go to Android 13, and if Infinix decides to upgrade Note 12, it will be going to Android 12, which this phone is one software ahead of the Infinix 12. So it's me, the Inside Man. Thank you for watching. It's the story of 12. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. I'll see you guys at the next one. Adios, mi amigos.